I made a theory slash prediction from every single shot of the Obi-Wan Kenobi teaser trailer. No, that's not an exaggeration. I'm just lucky that it was a teaser trailer, not the real thing, as this was only 1 minute 47, so it wasn't that hard. So the first shot of the trailer is Obi-Wan riding on his Eopie, and the obvious theory to this is that this is placed right after he dropped Luke off to Aunt Beru and Uncle Owen, and he's travelling back to his home that we see him living in A New Hope. However, what we've recently learned is that Obi-Wan actually lived in a cave before he lived in that house. So what I think is happening here is this is placed after the second shot of Obi-Wan in town, and he's returning to his cave from the town, so he's on his way back to his cave. And we do see some like mountains in like the background where he's near, so he's near some caves basically. The third shot shows Obi-Wan actually working, and this is likely why he was going into whatever part of Tatooine it was. Number one, to look like a normal civilian, and two, to save up the credits so he can buy the home that he lived in A New Hope and can move out of the cave. The fourth shot, pretty boring, connected to the last three. I believe that is again just him returning to the cave. We then see what I actually think is the cave that he lived in, and it is very, very close to the Lars homestead, like worryingly close. Luke is wearing a Star Wars VR headset and pretending to fly, and this could actually be a flight simulator, and this wouldn't actually be the first time we've seen a flight simulator in Star Wars, as Rey had one in the crashed AT-AT that she lived inside of. Now cutting to Kenobi looking over at Luke, I believe that this is him doing one last check before he leaves the cave for good and moves further away. Here we go then, into the good stuff. An Inquisitor ship travelling to the Fortress Inquisitorius. I think this could be the third sister, the new Inquisitor, travelling back to all the other Inquisitors to let them know that she's heard word of a Jedi being on Tatooine. Obviously, we know who that Jedi is. And I think this, as what follows, is the Grand Inquisitor and the fifth brother on what looks like Tatooine. And they're seemingly questioning people about a Jedi from Tatooine, so they've got word somehow. Then we get Kenobi on a train thingy, which appears to be going to Mos Espa. And based on all the people on this train, it's probably public transport, and it might actually be related to his work rather than just him fitting in, because I don't really see why he'd go to Mos Espa. Then we see an Inquisitor meeting inside of the Fortress Inquisitorius, and this now makes me believe that it was the Grand Inquisitor's ship we see fly up to the Fortress Inquisitorius, as she called him back to the Fortress Inquisitorius after she learnt of the Jedi on Tatooine. So she went back to the fortress, the fifth brother was already there or something, or she called him back as well, and the Grand Inquisitor is the one that we see make the, well, grand entrance, because he's the more important of them all. Voicing over a lot of these shots is the Grand Inquisitor giving a speech about the Jedi, and the third sister seemingly took the advice given by that speech, as she publicly unalived someone on Tatooine. And this would obviously be to draw out said Jedi that they would be talking about in that meeting that we know to be Obi-Wan, that they probably don't yet. However, we see Uncle Owen is in the crowd of this public unaliving, and based on that, I think the third sister may know that he is connected to this Jedi in hiding. We then get some shots of the third sister on this new, quote, Hong Kong planet, and this is probably where Obi-Wan has drawn the Inquisitors to after he had to flee Tatooine to get them away from Luke. Now, as the third sister is stood on top of a building, maybe this is where Princess Leia is being held, because she's rumoured to be in the series and to be getting captured by the Inquisitors, so maybe the third sister is stood on top of the building where she's being held, and the third sister is looking for people scurrying around trying to sneak in. But before I get onto the next shot, if you're enjoying this video so far, then why not let me know by leaving a like on it. Let's try and get 50 likes on this video, and if you're new around here, then subscribe, because I'm trying to get to 15k. A big ship then lands on what appears to be Tatooine, so my guess is going to be the obvious one, and that this is the Inquisitors arriving on Tatooine following that meeting. But then we see an Imperial officer step off of a ship on what doesn't appear to be Tatooine. They're not going to fool me. It does look like a dry planet, but there's literally a tree in the background and some grass, so if I had to make a theory from this, it's another planet where Obi-Wan leads the Inquisitors to. Then we get a shot of them walking through the streets, and one of them is actually the same species as the one Jedi youngling from the Gathering arc, so sure, why not? We'll say that it's her. She was turned to an Inquisitor. Now we get a shot of Obi-Wan lurking in the back of what I do believe is the same scene as the last shot. So my theories for this one is that he's just kind of planning and assessing what to do, following leading the Inquisitors to this planet, like I've been saying. And maybe if the Leia thing I said is right, she's actually walking with the Inquisitors right now. Droid gets suspicious of a stormtrooper. No. That is no stormtrooper, come on. White armor with like a faded blue on it as well, and a droid getting suspicious of who's in that armor, and the camera panning down to the weapon in their hand. This is Captain Rex. Now this scene here has got to be the third sister spotting Kenobi on this Hong Kong-esque planet and starts chasing him down. I do believe that Obi-Wan probably got spotted on purpose because I don't think he's reckless enough to just get seen by someone standing blatantly on top of a building that he could probably sense is there.
Where is he?
And then the Grand Inquisitor is interrogating a bald man. Come on, this has to be Tamora Morrison playing some character. There's no other explanation. But in all seriousness, why would the Grand Inquisitor assume that this random man knows something about Obi-Wan? Which is why I think maybe it could be Cody, it could be Rex, especially if that stormtrooper with the blue armor was Rex. But my theory that I'm actually going for 100% for this scene rather than just proposing a few that it could be, is that this is actually Tech from the Bad Batch. Hear me out. When you slow it down and you pay attention, he clearly has some kind of technology on like the back of his neck or stuff like that, and the clone that we know that's most obsessed with Tech is Tech. And to find this next detail that made me think it was Tech, I actually had to put it in 0.25 speed, and as the camera kind of spins around so you can see the front of this bald person, you kind of get a glimpse of what looks to be goggles around their eyes, and what clone wears goggles? Well, Tech. Also, one more thing really quickly, channel memberships are now live. If you're somewhat interested, then you can have a look to see what perks you get, and also check the link in my description to Fandomian because they make some really cool Star Wars merch, and the discount code MASTER2187 gets you 10% off. On with the video. Then it's just a shot of the fifth brother walking through this same Hong Kong-esque planet, and he appears to be in a separate area of the planet to the third sister standing on top of that building, and when Obi-Wan is lurking in the crowd, because this definitely looks like more of a city, whereas the third sister kind of looked like she was in a town, especially given the Obi-Wan lurking in the crowd scene. There was literally like market stands there. So given that the Inquisitors have split up to find Obi-Wan and the fifth brother is one that we know will survive, maybe this is where one of the ones that we don't see in any content past the Kenobi series does die. Now boom, 2 escape pods. Leia was brought back to a light cruiser or a starship, Obi-Wan and someone else goes to save her, and they manage to escape on 2 escape pods. Now who could go with Obi-Wan to save Leia? Well, maybe a surviving Jedi. Quinlan Vos is probably the #1 suspect for this, and I'd love to see him. However, Mace Windu is always an option. Alternatively, again, if that stormtrooper was Captain Rex, why would he be in full armor if he's not trying to go undercover on a starship or light cruiser? So maybe it's Rex and Obi-Wan saving Leia. This could actually be placed before the Hong Kong scene or the Imperial officer walking on that grassy planet, and that is where the pods potentially land. Uncle Owen tries to make a run for it after the third sister publicly unalives someone and realizes that he has something to do with this Jedi, and of course he's caught very easily, and this could also be something on top of the public unaliving that brings Obi-Wan out from hiding. However, I'm not quite sure because based on some other scenes it does get a bit confusing, but let's get into them now. The third sister finds a Jedi symbol looking graffiti on the wall, and we know that it's her because she is the only person wearing gloves in this sequence, so she goes up to it, probably reminiscing about her past. And around the same time of her lurking in the alleyway, she comes across who I think is Obi-Wan Kenobi, but the person in the alleyway that I think is Obi-Wan is wielding a blaster, not a lightsaber.
So uncivilized.
Because he's obviously trying to hide that he is a Jedi, which is why I get confused about the whole like Uncle Owen Tatooine public unaliving thing, because if Obi-Wan comes out then she'll already know that he's a Jedi anyway. Now if this is Obi-Wan with the blaster, then he's obviously the one that we see shooting on the rooftop. However, he's in a blaster dogfight, meaning that he's not shooting at the third sister because we've never seen an Inquisitor use a blaster. So what Star Wars Explained has said is that maybe bounty hunters have been put on alert that there's a Jedi on this planet, and if you manage to kill him you'll get this amount, because you know in the Clone Wars there was just a set price on a Jedi's head, so maybe that is still around.
Well, now that you mention it, the Separatists are paying 1 million credits a head for a Jedi.
But there's an extremely high chance that the third sister is also somewhat present in this, because it seems all of this is happening at the same time. Now in this chase scene, some birds end up escaping from something and fly up into the air, and this is maybe some Ahsoka foreshadowing because she's obviously associated with birds, you know, Morai.
Morai, you're here.
But yeah, didn't really have anything for that one, so Ahsoka foreshadowing why not? And the final shot of the trailer, you may not think it's anything significant, but I believe that this is Obi-Wan taking a look at either Qui-Gon Jinn's or Anakin Skywalker's lightsaber, probably more likely Anakin's, and then once he looks up from looking down at his lap, he looks off into the distance, which I believe is a little bit later on from the scene where he looks at Luke, as this is when he's permanently moving further away from Luke. He's leaving the cave to the new house. But anyway, I know that all of you watching this video would have been absolutely ecstatic watching the Kenobi series trailer, so why don't you watch me watch the Kenobi series trailer? There is my reaction to the Kenobi series. Yeah, thank you for watching. I'll see you in that video, and goodbye.